guys, and welcome to Faith Works Designs. I'm Faith, and today we're doing another exciting pattern from Mekaposh. Love, love, love her bags because we always learn new techniques and they're so fancy. So I want to show you guys the Anna. This is her latest design and it is super cute. I accidentally printed mine at 92%, so mine is a little bit smaller than the regular bag, just a little bit. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at my bag. She has some really cool connectors up here at the top, and quite a few of the testers decided to make them two-tone, and that way they're different colors on both sides, so you get that extra pop of color. Between that and then all of this going on here, these bags look so good and so fancy. So there is a magnetic snap on each side so that you can pop the bag open and make it a little bit wider. The back is plain, but you could repeat the pattern on the front and make it on the back if you wanted to. There is a recessed zipper, and then when you open it up, let's see, which side should I show you first? It's really hard to see, you guys, but there is a zipper overlay with a zipper pocket, and then on the other side there is a nice slip pocket. And like I said, when you open up the magnets, it opens nice and wide, but when you have it closed, it's really super cute. You can kind of have fun with it too. I normally make like a mock-up and then I make one for the video, and I love how this one turned out, so it kind of like inspired the rest for the video. So in the video I show you how to make these two-tone handles, and that way you can have one side with a print and the other side with just like a solid color. It's up to you guys if you want to follow the instructions, the written instructions for that. You can do that, but I think she is super cute. So let's get started. Alright, so we are going to work on our little connector, our D-ring connectors. Very first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to cut one out on its own. So take your pattern piece, wherever that landed, take your pattern piece and then go ahead and cut out your main color. So I decided to do two different colors on mine, and this one is still drying because I'm doing some edge coating, but I wanted a pop of color. So I've got purple on this side, and then when you fold this over, I'm going to have the little frog on the front. So I've been doing two different colors on mine. It's up to you if that's something you want to do. So I have brown on the back. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to top stitch all the way around this, and then after it's been top stitched, I'm going to go ahead and with my X-Acto knife, I went ahead around the edges and just cut everything out. And then I took my edge coating, because I always use Mojo Sews now, and I did the base paint, and then I think I'm going to do white. I'm not sure if I have brown or not. But anyway, I'm going to edge coat all of them because I think it makes it look really nice. It's just that extra pop of color. I just happen to have gold, and so it just kind of will give it an extra little pop. So, alright, let me go to the sewing machine and top stitch around these, and then I'll cut them out, and then we'll edge coat them. Alright, so you saw me doing two. You actually have 4 of these. I just wanted to do 2 real quick, but I am in the process of edge coating them. You're going to need to do that while you're prepping everything else. The next thing that I'm going to prep is our front panel. We need to get that put together. So you've got your bottom piece, your center, and then the very top. What you're supposed to do is measure in 1/4 inch and make a mark. And then what you're going to do is take some double-sided tape and put it inside of that 1/4 inch. So I've got 1/4 inch double-sided tape, and I'm putting 1/4 inch inside of that. And I'm going to do it to the bottom piece and the center piece. Those are the only ones you have to mark. And I've got like edge coating stuff all over me. Am I the only person that ends up covered in edge coat when you edge coat? Is it just me? Okay. Wasn't sure if it was just me or not. Alright, now, so that I don't have to take you from the table so many times to the sewing machine, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do everything all at once. So I'm going to remove this paper, and I'm going to place the center section right inside of that 1/4 inch mark and press it down. Then I'm going to take the paper off the center one, and then I'm going to take the top, and I'm going to line it up like that, and then press it down. Now, we're going to go to the sewing machine, and we're going to do just like the instructions tell us to do, and stitch these all together. Alright, so I have got a 4 stitch length, so I'm going 1/8 of an inch from the edge. I'm going to back stitch 1, and then I'm just going 1/8 of an inch to connect these pieces together. I think I can get one more. And then after you connect those two, you run out of bobbin. Let me grab some bobbin. But anyway, you're going to keep going down underneath as well. Alright, we're at it again. So we're just going to re-sew and hopefully catch what I caught before. We're going along 1/8 of an inch of the one that's on the top. And then we're going to come down. I'm going to do 2 stitches. And then I'm going to use my foot as a guide and keep like 1/8 of an inch underneath. One more. Alright, so it's going to look like that. Now we're going to need to do the same thing to the brown. Alright, so that's done. The next thing we need to do is we need to grab your side piece A. Now when you're cutting them out, make sure that you're mirroring them so that you have this angle. Alright, none of these pieces are interfaced just yet. You're going to do that after you assemble the very front panel. So what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to take the panel that we just sewed, and you're going to put that right side to the right side of one side of your panel. You're going to be doing both sides, but for right now we're going to do one side at a time. So let's go to the sewing machine, and with 1/4 of an inch seam allowance we're going to sew those together. Alright, so I've got a 3 stitch length, and I'm sewing with 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Now, if you have one of those rolling tools, you can open this seam up and roll it out. You can take your fingers and you can press it, but we're going to want that seam open because we're going to be stitching down this side and down this side to hold that seam allowance down on each side, because you want your seam allowance flat. So let me change, I've changed my seam length to a 4, and then what I'm doing is I'm taking the seam and opening it up underneath, and then pressing it down, and I'm going 1/8 of an inch-ish along the side of that seam. So essentially what you're doing is you want that seam allowance to be sewn down on each side. Okay, now we're going to go down the other side so that both sides are done. Make sure that your seam allowance is going that way now. Alright, so I went ahead, so I don't have to move you guys again. I grabbed the other piece A. We're going to put this right side to our center panel situation. And then we're going to sew that 1/4 of an inch, just like we did on the other side. And then top stitch down each seam allowance, just like we did on the other side. And I'm just going to kind of fast forward you guys, because it's the same thing over and over again. So make sure that you've got a 3 stitch length. Alright, so we've got our front panel ready, and then you've got your back panel. Your back panel is pretty basic. What we're going to do is we need to mark these so we can go ahead and put our interfacing on. That's why you didn't have any interfacing for the regular pieces. We're just going to do one whole piece of interfacing. Alright, so we're going to mark 1 inch down across the top. The top is going to be your more narrower part. And then I'm going to grab my other ruler that has fractions on it, because we're going to do 3/8 on the bottom. So the wider part is going to get 3/8. So just mark this out. Then what you're going to do is you're going to grab your interfacing and go ahead and adhere it to your panel. And and then we can go to the next step. Alright, so your interfacing should fit right in between those lines that we made, and you're going to do that on both your front and your back panel. So let me go adhere these and we'll go to the next step. Alright, so we've got both pieces interfaced, and I caught some of the brown as you can see. Alright, so we're going to take our template piece for the back panel, and I went ahead with my hole punch and punched out our little magnetic snap placement. We're going to lay it on the wrong side, and then we're going to make our marks for our magnets. And we're going to do that on the front and on the back. Now I'm going to take the washers and I'm going to place them on that dot, make those little lines on the side. And now I'm going to do that on the front panel. Now I'm going to take my seam ripper and open all those up. We're going to put our female magnets on the very back panel, and then our male magnets on the very front panel. Okay, and then I'm going to get my washers, and you're going to push the legs apart. You can put tape over these if you want to. You're worried about the legs or whatever rubbing against your lining. It's up to you. I'm not super worried about it. Alright, now we're going to grab our males, and we're going to put those on our front panel. And then add your washers and push those legs down. Now that our magnets are installed, the next thing that you're going to need to do is grab your pattern piece C, and you're going to need to cut these open and push them back so that we know where to mark where our D-ring connectors are going to go. So you're going to lay it down, make a mark, and then you're going to actually add some double-sided tape to hold the connector in place, and then make sure that you open up this other side as well. So let me grab my connectors and we'll get started with that. Alright, so my D-ring connectors are all done. I've done the edge coating on them, and you guys, I would highly recommend doing the edge coating because I want you to see how good it looks on a finished bag. It just makes those edges look so much nicer when you're looking at them instead of having just kind of raw edges. A couple of the testers that I've seen that had raw edges just kind of looked funny. So I would take a couple minutes, you know, take an hour, and in between while you're putting things together, put your base coat on, put your regular coats on, make sure that you sand, so all that. Alright, now that we have these done, we've cut out these little cutouts, and then I'm going to line my pattern up, and just so that it doesn't move, I'm going to put my weight on it so that it doesn't move, and then I'm going to lift this up, and we're going to put some double-sided tape down, just right in the center. That one's kind of big. That's okay. Alright, once you have that done, next thing we need to do is we need to grab our connectors, and I'm going to do them brown side up so that when I push them down like that, I'll see the cow print kind of poking out. A lot of the testers have been doing the double color, and I think they look really, really nice because it really makes it pop. Alright, let me get another one. I really like these connectors. They look really cool on the finished bag. She did a really great job designing them. Alright, next thing we're going to do, we're going to lift that up, and then you can take your rectangle rings or D-rings or whatever you decided to use, and we're going to put those on, and then I'm going to push that down. And then what I'm going to do is kind of get my marking tool that I should have had already. I'm going to grab my marking tool and make sure that that is where I want it to land. And then I'm going to mark through those holes, which, by the way, you want to take your marking template and go ahead and make your holes before you even do any of this. That way you can just push those down, fold it down, and do your thing instead of having to do everything while it's all connected. So before you even put them on your front panel, go ahead and cut those holes out. We're going to take our hole punch. Let me do the second one too. Now cut those holes out. Alright, when the holes are cut out, you're going to need to grab your rivets. So we're going to grab our rivets, and I'm going to put the parts of the rivets that have the stem in through the back first. I'm going to do that on both sides. And then I'm going to grab my D rings, or my rectangle rings, and I'm going to push those down. Alright, now what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to repeat this on your back panel and then go ahead and smush those down. So I'm just going to fast forward real quick and do the same exact thing. Alright, now that these front panels are done and look fantastic, we're going to add our bottom gusset. But before we do anything, we're going to take the bottom of our front panel and find the center and make a little notch. Just a little notch on the bottom. And we're going to take our back panel, same thing, fold it in half and then make a little notch in the center. Okay, now we're going to attach our bottom gusset. So I went ahead, folded this in half. I found the center on both sides of my bottom gusset, and then I went ahead and I found the center on the sides of my gusset. Now what we're going to do is we're going to match up these center notches to the bottom of our front panel. So we're going to match up those notches, and then we're going to take this to the sewing machine. And we're going to sew these together. We're going to sew these together with a 3/8 seam allowance. So let's go do that. So I'm going to grab my little handy dandy magnet. And then I'm going to go ahead and make sure that it's at 3/8. I don't know why I've got the foot up. There we go. Alright, now we're going to do 3/8. I always want to go 1/4 inch. I don't know why. Starting at the very beginning and then just going all the way across. Alright, now we're going to remove our little magnet and we are going to take our bottom gusset and push it over. Your seam allowance is going to need to go towards your bottom gusset. And then you're top stitching across there with a 4-stitch length. So at 1/8 of an inch on the edge of this bottom gusset. So I've grabbed my very back panel. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to match up this bottom notch with the bottom notch in our bottom gusset, and you're going to clip those two together, and then we're going to do exactly what we did on the other side. You're going to be sewing these together at 3/8 seam allowance, and then you're going to be top stitching at 1/8 of an inch to make that bottom gusset lay nice and flat with a 3-stitch length. Nope, we're going 3/8 here. Alright, we've got our bottom gusset all connected. The next thing that she has you do is add your purse feet onto here, but I'm going to skip that step. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab our sides and put them together, and your magnets will probably want to go straight together, and that's fine. And then just clip this all together. We're going to take both sides and go to the sewing machine, and we're going to sew them together at a 3/8 seam allowance. Alright, with a 3-stitch length and a 3/8 seam allowance, we're going to sew the sides together. Alright, so you remember how I told you to make that center notch in your bottom gusset? This is where it comes into play. So you're going to open up your seam allowance on the side panel and then connect that bottom notch and your center of your seam together. And then all across the bottom, you're going to push those together. And you're going to do that on both sides. And then we're going to sew them together with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Alright, next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add some double-sided tape. I used a 1/4 inch all the way around the top edge. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove that paper. And then you're going to take the edge of your fabric and meet that 1-inch line that you drew earlier. If you want to, you can go ahead and put some clips just so that it stays in place. I'm going to go ahead and turn this right side out, and then I may add a few clips just to make sure that it stays down while we start working on the lining. Alright, let me turn this right side out and then grab our lining pieces and we'll get started with that. Alright, so I've got my outer clip down. I'm going to set this aside for just a minute. We are going to work on the zipper gusset situation real quick. Alright, first things first, on each side of your zipper panels you're going to want to measure in 1/2 inch and then draw a line. Then you're going to want to get some 1/4 inch double-sided tape and put them on each end on each piece. Then what you're going to do is you're going to remove that paper and then meet the edge of your material onto that 1/2 inch line that you just made. Alright, just like that. Next thing she wants you to do is she wants you to measure in 1/2 inch and then get the edges of your zipper tape. There are so many videos, you guys, and so many ways that people have come up with how to do this. This is how I do it. So I'm pulling my zipper tape apart. About 1/2 inch, I pull it backwards, then take this back edge towards the zipper edge. So this edge right here. So folding it back and then bringing it over. And then you've got your zipper edge. Like I said, you could sew it. There's like a 90-degree angle video out there right now that somebody came up with. My machine will eat this like nobody's business, but I'm using nylon zipper tape, so I'm just burning it so that it'll stay in place. So I fold it back and then bring it up towards the edge of that zipper tape. And it's really hard to show, and I'm really, really sorry. It's just really hard to show. Jess Okla Roots has done this on her videos, and I guess somebody from TikTok came up with this method. And for me and my machine, this just does so much better. So this is the way that I generally do the ends of my zipper tape. Once your edges are straight, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to take our zipper panels and we're going to fold them in half, just like this. And then what you're going to do is you're going to stick one edge up into it, up into that corner, and then you're clipping your zipper in between that folded layer. And then we're going to go to the sewing machine, and at 1/4 inch, we're going to sew down that seam to make our little like zipper placket. So let's go do that. Alright, so with a 3-stitch length at 1/4 inch, I'm just going to start on this end, making sure to backstitch. Alright, so it should look like that. The next thing that you're going to do is you're going to take this and flip it right side out. And my battery is dying, so let me change that real quick. Alright, fresh battery. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to match up these ends and then clip along this side so that it'll lay nice and flat against my zipper. I'm going to change my stitch length to a 4, and then I'm base stitching down the sides, and then I'm going to sew down the zipper, or beside the zipper. Alright, now we're going to do the other side exact same way. We're going to fold this in half, and then we're going to stick our zipper edge up to the edge of that center. If you wanted to, you could make center notches just to make sure that you're getting it right dead in the center. And then I'm just going to clip down my zipper, take it to the sewing machine, and do the same thing that I just did on the other side. Alright, now we're going to start sewing from the zipper edge with a 3-stitch length. Alright, pull that back, and then we're going to top stitch and base stitch the sides and top stitch. Wow. We're going to base stitch the side and then top stitch down the zipper. Alright, now that our zipper gusset is all done, or our little zipper placket, You're going to fold it in half and make center notches on both sides, and then we're going to set this aside. The next thing you're going to need is you're going to need one of your lining and your zipper overlay. I went ahead and I folded this in half and then found a center notch so that I can know where the center of that panel is, because we're going to have to kind of center our zipper overlay. So I'm going to grab my ruler, and it's supposed to be 1.5 inches down is where we're placing our zipper overlay. So I'm going to take the paper off one side, and then I'm going to try and center it. Alright, I'm happy with that. Now I'm going to take the paper off, like that. Now, we're going to take this to the sewing machine, and we're going to sew on the outside edge. Don't get anywhere near the zipper rectangle. We're just doing the outside edge. Alright, so I've got a 4-stitch length, and I'm just going 1/8 of an inch around the outside edge. Alright, we're sewed on. I ran out of bobbin again. Oh my goodness, that's what you get when you make 2 purses when you should only be making 1. Alright, we're going to take this, cut right in the center, and then what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to cut the materials in between that rectangle hole, and your double-sided tape is going to want to get in the way. I'm not cutting the zipper overlay, I'm just cutting the lining. That took long enough. Okay, that's done. You should have just that little bit removed from the inside. Now let's set this aside. Alright, now we've got our zipper lining pieces and then our zipper. The first thing that you're going to do is, with your zipper lining right side up and your zipper right side up, we're going to take this to the sewing machine and we're going to sew at 1/4 inch seam allowance to sew those two together. Alright, so I've got a 3-stitch length and I'm sewing 1/4 inch right along the edge of that zipper. Now take this seam allowance and push it down, just like that, and then you're going to top stitch the seam allowance down. Get your other lining piece with the right side up, place your zipper right side up, and then we're going to sew these together. I've got a 3-stitch length, and we're going at 1/4 inch along the edge. Pull that seam allowance back and then top stitch down your seam allowance. I went ahead and I put some 1/4 inch double-sided tape on the right side of my zipper in my seam allowance, what we just sewed down. I already took my paper off, so just ignore that. We're going to grab our zipper real quick and open this up, and then we're going to add our zipper left side first, then your right side, make them meet on the end. Okay, now, with your zipper closing to the left, opening to the right, we're going to take the top paper off, and then we're going to take our lining, and we're going to center it so that the zipper is in the center of our rectangle box, and you can probably feel with your hands that your zipper panels and all are centered on the outside. So you've got all of this on the sides of your zipper. And then we're going to lift this up, move your zipper up out of the way, take that paper off, just let it fall down where it wants to go. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to sew around our rectangle, attaching our zipper and our zipper overlay. Alright, so about 1/8 of an inch from the edge, the inside edge. And I did not mention it, but your lining needs to be wide open like that. So your bottom lining, your bottom zipper lining needs to go that way, your top lining needs to go that way, out of the way. I went ahead and pulled my thread through. Your back should look like this. Your front should have your zipper all attached. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to take the top part and bring it down, just straight down, and then you're going to clip those together. Now before you go sewing the sides, you're going to need to trim off that bottom. So you're going to cut right along that bottom piece. we're going to sew, where are we? We're going to start sewing on this side with a 3-stitch length at 1/4 inch all the way around. Alright, so that side of our lining is all done. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab our slip pocket pieces. So you've got your slip pocket piece, and then you've got your pocket trim. What you need to do is down the longer sides, you need to measure 1/2 inch in, make a line. And do that on both sides. Then you're going to grab some 1/4 inch double-sided tape and put them on both sides. Then I'm going to grab my trim, and I marked, and it's 1 inch, so I marked right down the center at 1/2 inch, and then I put 1/4 inch on each side. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove that paper and make those sides meet that 1/2 inch mark that we made, and then press them in place. Alright, once that's done, next thing you need to do is bring these sides up so that the top matches together, and then you can clip the sides if you want. And then I'm going to go to the sewing machine, and I'm going to base stitch real quick across the top so that the open part will close. We're not doing anything else. We're just going across the top to base stitch. Alright, now that I've got the top just base stitched closed, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my trim, and I'm going to take the paper off on one side, and I'm going to make that pocket meet up just like that. And then I'm going to take that other paper off, and I'm going to make those two sides, I'm going to make this side fold over and make the two sides meet. And then I'm going to take this to the sewing machine and sew 1/8 inch across this bottom here so that they stay connected and they stay on our pocket. So let's go do that. Alright, with a 4-stitch length, I'm just going 1/8 inch and sewing that on. Alright, now that we've got that sewn, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to trim my sides. And I'm very lucky that this vinyl is one of those vinyls that you can kind of melt a little bit and then squish together, and it looks really nice. And you don't have to do that, and be very careful if you do so you don't accidentally burn yourself. Now we need to grab our other lining, and again I'm going to find the center and make a knot. I'm going to grab my ruler, and we're going to measure down 1.5 inches. And then I am going to try and center this. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one hand on top, one hand underneath, and then I'm going to carry this to my sewing machine just like it is so that it will stay in place. Alright, so I've got a 4-stitch length. I'm just going around the 3 edges, so I'm not going across the top, obviously, or we would not have a slip pocket. I'm going down the sides, across the bottom, and then back up the other side. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to grab our zipper gusset that we just created, and when I look in my bag, I want to see my zipper first. So I am going to put this like that so that that is on the back of the bag. Alright, yes. Yes, that's what I'm going with. I'm going to put my zipper placket right along the top, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this to the sewing machine and I'm going to base stitch those two together. I've got a 4-stitch length, and just right along the edge of the 1/8 of an inch, I'm base stitching that on. Now that that's in place, we need to take our main lining top, that's G1 or GI, and then what we're going to do is we're going to put right sides together, and we're going to sew these together at 1/4 inch seam allowance. Alright, so let's go do that. Alright, I went and double checked because I want to make sure I was telling you right. So yes, it's 1/4 inch seam allowance, and I've got a 3-stitch length, and we're just sewing that panel on. Alright, now what we're going to do is we're going to take our flap that we just sewed, our zipper placket, all of that, and make it go to the right. Our seam allowance is going to the left, and everything else is going to the right. We're going to top stitch down this. So I'm going to grab a 4-stitch length, and remember our seam allowance is going to the left. Alright, now that that's done, we're going to grab our other lining, and we're going to put our center notch to the center notch of our zipper placket, And we're going to clip those together, and just like we did on the other side, I'm going to base stitch these two together. So just like that. Placket is base stitched in place. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our GI piece, the main lining top, and we're going to place it right side to right side, and you clip those together. And then we're going to take it to the sewing machine, and just like we did on the other side, we'll sew it together at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So let's go do that. I've got a 3 stitch length, and then we're sewing at a 1/4 inch. Alright, now just like we did on the other side, our seam allowance is going to go towards the right, so towards our lining, and then our top flap and all of that is going to go to the left. And we're just top stitching our seam allowance down so it'll stay straight. I've got a 4 stitch length, making sure that my seam allowance is going that way. So we've got all of this together. The next thing that we need to do is we need to clip these sides together. So we're just going to kind of match them up. And we're going to clip down the sides and the bottom. We're going to take this to the sewing machine, and at 3/8 inch, we're going to sew down the sides and then across the bottom. Don't sew along here yet. I've got a 3 stitch length, and I need to get my 3/8 up there. Okay. Sew down each side and the bottom. The very bottoms, how we're going to do this, you're going to open this up. And then match up your center seams. Make sure that they're butterflying, meaning they're going in the opposite direction. You don't want them on top of each other because it'll be really thick to sew through. I mean, it's not a huge deal in the lining because I'm only using waterproof canvas, but okay then. That clip did not want to be a part of this party. Alright, do that on both sides. Meet up your centers. Ooh, press that seam down. Now, we're going to sew these at our sewing machine at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And I've also got a 3 stitch length too. Alright, so we're looking like this now. We're all connected. There was one thing that I forgot to tell you guys. The main lining top, you were supposed to measure in an inch and make a mark. I completely forgot to tell you guys. I am so sorry. Alright, I went ahead and I put 1/4 inch around the top, just like we did on the outside, and then I'm going to remove it and make that inch, fold it over that inch, and then make that meet up. And I'm going to open up my zipper all the way. Alright, now that I've got that done, I'm going to confess that I suck at drop-ins. I dislike them greatly, but I know a lot of you guys like them, so I'm going to do it just like the instruction tells me to do, and we'll go from there. But I'm going to do one thing real quick. I'm going to grab some 1/4 inch double-sided tape, and I'm going to take all these clips off. Whenever I do drop-ins, inevitably one or the other shifts. And it's so frustrating when you put all of this work into it and then you're top stitching, something shifts and it looks bad. It's incredibly frustrating to somebody that's a perfectionist. So I'm just going to put some 1/4 inch double-sided tape on, not an 1/8 inch, but a little bit further down than an 1/8 inch, around my outside panel. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the paper. And this is our front, and I want to see my zipper when I'm looking into my bag, so I'm going to put it in just like this. I'm going to start on the center side seams, and I'm going to push them together, and then I'm going to go to the other side, and then I'm going to go all the way around, pressing them together so that tape will hold them together as I'm trying to sew them together. And hopefully they won't like swish around and mess me up and make my top stitching look bad. So I'm gonna fuss with this, and then we're gonna go to the sewing machine and we're gonna top stitch, and the bag part of all of this is done. Then we need to make our handles and all of that, and then we'll be done. So I took my key fob and I got these little corners right here because they're laying on top of each other, so they got a little bit thick. So anyway, I went ahead and did that. I'm going to start top stitching towards my back. The tape trick really does help keep the lining in place. I know if you're doing cotton or something, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. But I went ahead and I made my top thing out of the vinyl that I was working with because it's really, really thin and I don't have to worry about it. Oh, yeah, let's watch out for our our D-rings or our rectangle rings and try not to sew them. I really don't want to break a needle today. So when you're going around, just watch out for those. Alright, so I went ahead and I put my magnets together, and I'm going to let the bag sit like this for a little while so that it kind of gets trained to stay in that position, because it's going to want to just stay out. So I'm going to leave it like that. But real quick, I'm going to take the ends of my zipper, and I cut my zipper a little bit longer, but that's alright. I can trim it down later. I'm going to go ahead and add my zipper, and I'm going to let the bag sit for a little while so it kind of trains itself to stay in that position. And then we're going to work on our straps. So let me go grab all of that material and then we'll start. But look how nice it looks. It's so fancy. All of Mekaposh's bags are so fancy. I love them so much. Alright, let me grab the strap. Alright, so it's time to do the handle. I'm going to do my handle just a little bit different. I really like the pops of color from both the cow print and the brown. So what I'm going to do is I cut out 2 strips. So I cut out a 2 by 21 inch strip of brown and a 2 by 21 inch of cow. And then I made a line down the center length. I took the paper off and I made each side meet in the center. Like this. You're going to need 2 straps, so you're going to have 4 pieces total. So they meet in the center and push down. Then I put a 1/2 inch double-sided tape down the center. I'm going to remove that. Now I put it on the wrong side. So the wrong side is the side that you put each side into the center on. I put it on the wrong side, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them together like that. So on one side I'll have the brown and on the other side I'll have the cow. Now when I go to put it on, which side I'm going to put on which, I don't know yet. But that's that. Okay, what I'm going to do is all the way around I'm going to sew at 1/8 of an inch to sew both of these together. So I've got my stitch length at a 4, and then I'm just going to go around. I'm starting in the center so that I'm not like running off the edge, but I'm going to make it one continuous stitch all the way around. So just start at 1/8 of an inch from the edge. You guys, look at how good this looks. Oh my gosh. Okay, I went ahead and put my rivets in just so I can get an idea of what I wanted to do. Alright, we're going to take the strap. If you're doing it the way that I'm doing it, I went 1/4 of an inch and made a hole, and then I measured 2 inches in and made a hole. And that's going to give me what I need for that little flip over. So I've got the brown on the outside. Alright, I'm going to put my rivet through that first hole so the stem is going up into the cow material. And then I'm going to push my strap through like that. And then I'm putting the cap on. And then you're just going to smush those. And your strap is done. In the video, I'm not going to be doing the crossbody strap just because there's not really anywhere to connect it to. And I think it's cute by itself. And I think that's how it's going to sell best in the store. So I think that's what I'm going to do. Is just leave it without a crossbody strap. The directions have the crossbody strap in them if you want to do that. I have just opted to not. Alright, so go and squish these and then you're done. Alright guys, so what do you think? I love this bag. It was really quick So, when Mekaposh messaged me, I was like, how fast is it? Because I'm kind of busy. I have a lot to do right now. But I wanted to make a video for her because I love her bags and I love how they come out. And she's like, it's pretty fast. And I'll be honest with you guys, it was super fast. Now, granted, I was making 2 of them at a time. I was trying to work on this one as I was working on the other one, just to make sure that I had all of the steps down up here so that I could get them correctly in the video. And anyway, there might be a few things that I skipped, and there might be a few things that I kind of did differently, and that's fine. You know, follow the written instructions, add the little D-ring that's on the inside. It's up to you. I would highly, highly, highly recommend the edge coating. I know not everybody's a fan of edge coating, however, it does give it a lot of pop. Now, I know my ring light's kind of hard for you to see, but do you see that gold on the edge of that D-ring connector? It just, in the pictures and all, it just makes this look so much better than having, say, raw edges. It just looks really, really nice. So I would definitely take the time to do the edge coating. Now, I get my edge coating from Mojo Sews. I actually got the gold from there, and I haven't seen gold anywhere, but it's like a gold. Like, it's not yellow, it's a gold, which was perfect for the chocolate frog. So anyway, check out Mojo Sews. Go over there, check out their edge coating. It doesn't take that long. I ended up doing the first coat and then moving on to something else. I did the second coat and then did something else, and then I did my bag kind of out of order so that I can make sure that I could do the edge coating because I really liked how it looked. When you watch the video, everything's in order. But when I was edge coating this one, I went ahead and did some of the lining, and that way I had time to be able to sand down my connectors and then go ahead and put the black on and then wait and then put another coat on, etc. It really, really does make that bag look really nice if you do the edge coating. Alright, I will stop harping on edge coating. Anyway, I hope you guys like this pattern. If you do, make sure that you give my video a thumbs up, and then go to Mekaposh's website and check out her other patterns. She has some really cool, there's one with a bow that I have yet to be able to do, but I want to do it. She has a lot of neat patterns, and you're going to learn a lot of new techniques, and that's why I love doing her bags, because I don't make bags normally like she does. This one's a little easier because it's drop-in. But anyway, go check out her website, give her some love, go on her Facebook page. If you make this bag, go on there, show it off on her page, and that way she can kind of see her bags out in the wild like I like to see my bags out in the wild, and give her some love. Anyway, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, or you can subscribe so that you don't miss some of the patterns that are coming out. There are a ton. Between me and Mekaposh, we're kind of rotating. Like, she'll do one and then I'll do one, and we've just been kind of rotating. And it's cool to be able to kind of like help each other out and get the content too. So anyway, make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss any more of her patterns or any of my patterns. Also do me a favor, go down into the description and check out the link for merch. I have several shirts on there that I've made. Hopefully you guys will like them. Every single shirt that's purchased, every view on YouTube, every pattern that's purchased from me helps this channel stay alive, and it helps my small business to continue to grow and continue to stay alive. So just want to thank you guys for that. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section down below. I do check those daily. Thanks again for joining us on Faith Works Designs. Bye guys.